I bet you didn't see this one coming. We got a podcast, baby. The daily podcast grind is back. Welcome to this episode of the podcast. This is, of course, the AKAJK audio show, and the subcategory on this one is JK Tech News, where I just give sort of the latest and greatest tech and give news, even the shitty tech, it all gets featured. On this episode, I'm going to be discussing hyped tech for 2019. I might make a short version video, just kind of YouTube channel video, like a 5-10 minute something. But this one's going to be a full, hopefully an hour long, just discussing all of the hyped tech for 2019. Sorry, this episode, Kurosh is not available. Hopefully the next couple of weeks he'll be back, and the podcast grind will begin with the others as well. But for now, I'm here, so you can just enjoy the fact that I'm here as well. And without further ado, let's jump into this episode of the podcast. So there's something, it's just one thing that is always on my list every year for most hype tech, and that is the new iPhone. So me being a hardcore Apple fan and just an iPhone user, and I just love iPhones and Apple products, I'm always hyped for the new iPhone. I'm probably not going to get this iPhone, I don't need it, I have an iPhone 10, works really well, it does everything great, takes great photos, has 256 gigabytes of storage, a great display, looks great, all that kind of jazz. So I don't need a new phone. But I'm always excited to see what Apple has to bring each year. And of course this year is not going to be any different. So I've looked at some of the rumors, haven't gone into depth. I might make a full video just on the new iPhone. But I haven't gone into a full sort of depth video for that. Yeah, obviously I yawn. I'm a human as well. And this is sort of a more raw, unfiltered podcast. Anyways, let's continue. So hopefully this new phone is going to be the iPhone 11. They're not going to scam us with some like iPhone XS.2 or something like that. Because in 2018, I wasn't really expecting to have iPhone XR and XS and that kind of stuff. I was expecting maybe a XS. And then, I don't know, there's like a XS and an 11, something like that. The 10R, I was expecting it to be like the 10C or the 11 Lite or something like that. I didn't expect it's going to be an entire 10 lineup like with the X. I thought it's going to be some 11s as well, and this year would be a 12. Well, no. Hopefully this year we'll have the 11s. I like the number to increase. Anyways, there aren't too many rumors right now circulating on the new iPhone. Probably in a month's time we'll have more, and then I can give you more content on the iPhone. But in terms of my wish list and what I want this iPhone to have, first of all, I definitely want them to keep the gold color. The gold color is really great. It goes alongside. If I was going to choose, the gold color would be the one that I go with. I want them to keep it. Aside from the gold color, maybe if they added something else, but I really don't know what would fit into their sort of classy theme. Because there's gold, there's silver, and there's kind of a dark gray. Maybe a jet black or an actual black. Because if there was a black, then it would be a hard decision between the gold and the black. The black colors were very popular with the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 8 and that kind of stuff. So black, I think, would be beneficial. I prefer matte black. I just don't like the sort of the fingerprint magnet that the jet black kind of brought. Was just really kind of too glossy. I prefer the matte black. But anyway, a black color would be very interesting. I highly doubt they're going to have a black color. I think it's going to stay with space gray, the gold, I think it's blush gold, and silver, like they always do. Well, the 10 didn't have gold, but I think they're just going to stick with those three colors. Hopefully they add something else, but I highly doubt it. Anyways, I don't think there's going to be a light phone this year like there was the iPhone XR or the iPhone 5C. I think it's just going to be complete flagships, but I'm not sure because if you've seen, Apple had a huge stock dip, but they dropped like 10%, and in China they've been dropping, and they had, one of the major reasons was the fact that they just don't have enough budget phones, and more people want the flagships and things like that. It was just the flagship versus budget kind of debate going on with the new iPhones and things like that. So actually, I don't know if there's going to be a budget phone. Not too bothered. I'm not going to buy any of them, and least of all the budget phone, because I don't want the budget phone. Anyways, it would be good to have a budget phone to see kind of what the differences are. Good for gifts. Lots of people just prefer getting a budget phone to give it to their friends and family. let's say you are on a budget yourself, or you just, you don't want to waste that much money. You don't think the iPhone, let's say we go to this lineup. You're not really some sort of powerhouse user. You just you don't really edit or something nobody really edits on the phone, some people do. But you just don't use your phone so hardcorely. The iPhone 10R would have been better for you if you had to pick with an iPhone. Or even the SE would have been even better. So it's just something that's not as hardcore or as powerful. It's just on the budget side is always beneficial. Now, aside from that, in terms of wish list, the notch, I would love to see something happening to the. Oh, got a big shake. Anyway, love to see something happening with the notch, because as it stands right now, Apple have kept the same notch since 2017, and I haven't sort of done anything about it. We have tons of notch and bezel-less innovation coming along, which I'll discuss a bit later. But the S10 have got that hole punch camera thing that they're gonna have, which is pretty much no notch, just a tiny camera in the screen. There's the Oppo phones have decided to have mechanical or slider, where you just kind of the slider one was cool that MKBHD discussed on his channel. You just slide the phone, the camera pops out. Or the mechanical one, obviously there's some moving parts and could be damaged and things like that. They're still not fully. They're essentially kind of beta products. But if we had some sort of innovation where the notch could be removed, it would be very interesting to see and exciting. A new move for Apple without the notch would be probably beneficial for their. I mean, really, honestly, someone is going to come up with some stupid joke about whatever Apple do. There always is going to be one. The notch was made literally the number one comedy item of the year, and they all pretty much people continue to do the same thing. But if there's something that just looks better than the notch, I definitely would prefer that, and then let Apple move on with that version of the notch. Because if you've seen other smartphones, they have innovated and moved on from the notch. I think it's time for Apple to do so as well. Also, if you've seen the new iPad Pro, I don't think anyone was disappointed with it, aside from the price is pretty high. Pretty much everyone loved the new iPad Pro. It had great specs. You could get up to 1 terabyte of storage. I did like this industrial boxed out look with kind of sharper edges. I don't know if you liked it, but that's just sort of something I preferred this time. And it was a nice touch to see Apple have. Obviously, the camera sticking out was a bit annoying, but it was pretty much like something that you could actually edit on, and it was actually sustainable for working. And if you're not really a hardcore user, the iPad Pro could definitely replace your laptop, because what can the laptop do that the iPad Pro can't really at this stage, unless you're sort of like an editor, a filmmaker, some sort of creative, or a gamer or something like that. Like if I have, let's say, my MacBook Pro and my iPad Pro, I'm a regular user, working in an office. I use applications such as Microsoft Word and the entire Microsoft suite. I use Google Docs and that kind of stuff. It's I don't really play any games. I don't do any video editing or photo editing or things like that. Just deal with files. The iPad Pro has all of those Microsoft softwares you can use them on. You can use Google Docs and Google Slides and that kind of stuff for completely free. Take any photos on it, you can literally back them up. You can't really take photos on the old laptop. If you want to do sort of face calls, kind of Skype, you can do that. It has a camera, much higher quality than most of the laptops these days. You can use headphones and other things with adapters that you buy. That's completely fine, regardless. You don't need that, or you just use wireless stuff. Yeah, sometimes you gotta crack your neck. Anyways, things like that. So you can obviously buy the Apple keyboard that comes with it and use it as the keyboard case. Things like that. So really, the iPad Pro is just an easy replacement for someone who doesn't use a laptop as a hardcore workhorse. But then again, if you're using a budget laptop, then it would probably be much cheaper than the iPad Pro because of its new expensive price. If you want to see what I discussed on iPad Pro, there'll be a link in one of the cards. I don't know where I can find that, if you're actually watching the video on YouTube. If not, well, tough luck. Find the YouTube channel, find everything Apple released in the Apple event or something like that. I might leave it in the what do they call it? The keynotes? I can't remember. No, I'm not like some hardcore podcaster, but I am now with the daily stuff. Anyways, whatever they call that, the notes section, the description of the podcast, that kind of stuff, I might leave a link there. Anyways, aside from the iPad Pro stuff that I just discussed and the fact that it could be used as a laptop, and I just went on a complete tangent, I do want the iPhone 11 or whatever they're going to call it to have USB-C. I don't know if they're going to do it, but Apple were brave enough to add it into the iPad. They have it on the MacBook lineup. The only thing that's left to convert is the iPhone. If the iPhone is converted, Apple will be a complete USB-C ecosystem, and that would be pretty great. For everyone who's complaining about the 2016 MacBook Pro, everything from Apple now has a USB-C if they do incorporate this new thing, and it'll be pretty great. Hopefully in the next few years, these sort of adapters and stuff will no longer need to be used because USB-A would have become obsolete by that time. Now, if there's anything that Apple have done that you don't really like, for example, removing the SD card from computers, removing the headphone jack, they are not going to go back on those decisions. It's pretty, very, very unlikely that they're going to stay, they remain the way they are, they're just going to adapt to something new. They will not go back with the headphone jack. They will not go back with the SD card, or adding USB-A or HDMI ports or things like that to their laptop. They're staying with what they have right now, most definitely. If they move to USB-C on the iPhone, Lightning is dead. It's out. That would be a big disappointment for all the cases that people have bought, because now they're obsolete. The chargers, because we've been on Lightning since the iPhone 5, which was many years ago. So everyone has just adapted to Lightning over the last, 6 or 7 years or something like that, with the iPhone having the Lightning port. So it's just been a very long time, and obviously everyone had to change all their charging stuff. Wireless chargers, of course, could still remain, and all these accessories that they have, earphones and stuff like that, adapters, all that kind of jazz would have to change for the iPhone if they change it. So, Apple, I highly doubt Apple are going to really take that into mind, judging by the fact that they've removed everything on the bloody laptop. So, I don't think they care about that anymore. So they're probably going to be ruthless on that side, and hopefully they can remove the Lightning port and switch it with USB-C. That's pretty much my entire wish list for the new iPhone. Let's move on to other things. According basically what I think Apple will do, I don't think they're going to convert to USB-C. I think they're going to have maybe some minor camera improvements, because we haven't seen that much in a while. I'm thinking, what else? What else would they likely do? The colors, they're probably going to keep them the same. I don't think the design is going to change. MKBHD was thinking this is going to be a big jump. I don't know if it will be. I'm hoping it would be, because of course big jump is a big jump, and we all want big jumps. But if you look at the way they've been, like the 6, 7, and 8 all looking pretty similar in terms of design, and then bang, the 10. So then we have the 10, this 10S and 10R stuff, and then the 11, and then bang, the 12. If they follow that sort of triple and then change system that I've just been seeing. If they don't follow that triple kind of change, they've also done it with like the iPhone 3, the iPhone 4, and then bang, the 5. They just changed it. So you see what I mean? If they do follow that system that they have, then yes, the iPhone 11 won't be good in terms of major change. If they just change it up and the iPhone 11 has major change, then of course it will change and be something like unique in terms of design. For example, putting the iPhone 8 in the iPhone 10, you can definitely tell the difference. iPhone 8 and the iPhone 7, not so much. See what I mean? So that's sort of what I'm thinking. Hopefully they make a big change, but we'll see what happens. And of course, I'll keep you updated along the way according to the change that Apple do and different rumors that come out. So make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, AKAJK, and all my social medias at AKAJK and the podcast, the AKAJK audio show, which if you're listening on a podcast or you're watching on YouTube, who knows. Subscribe to everything, because I do keep updates on this technology stuff. I do give updates on videos. I make 2 videos every day, so it's useful. Anyways, next up would be the Galaxy S10. We are very close, we got most of the rumors on this. if you've seen some of the renders, we know it's going to have that hole punch. It seems to be the Galaxy S10, the S10 Lite, and then the S10 Plus with the size. I just read it in terms of size ascending. Now, they all have this hole punch thing. The S10 and the S10 Lite only have one camera in the front, like in terms of selfie camera. So then you have a single hole punch, basically, like a little circle on the screen. Seemingly from the renders is going to be in the top left of the phone. So if I could grab my iPhone here, if you're watching this right now, let's say this is the iPhone. Can I get it angled properly? Yeah, I'll bring it close. You'd have a little circle over here instead of that notch, and that's where your cameras would be housed. Done. That's how it works. With the S10 Plus, they're going to have double, so it's going to be a double-sized punch-out, which doesn't really look as good, but here, I guess it's the Plus, and we have more room to play around with. If you've seen MKBHD's video on this, you'll see that the bezels near the circle aren't really being utilized for anything. So, you know how we've all been complaining about the notch takes up some space and it could be utilized for other things. Samsung aren't really utilizing it for other things, just coming from our renders. But it still does look better, and I think we would still pay extra to see a hole punch instead of a notch for most people. That's probably what they would do. I would do that, and yeah. The S10 does look really nice from the renders I've seen. The hole punch is probably going to be something controversial. Right, podcast people, if I was just to pull up a quick picture of the S10, where is the S10? And let's just see what it looks like. Oh, the Samsung Galaxy S10 has been spotted in the wild. Okay, let's see what we're seeing on the S10. So it can just give you more information. Right, so the back seems to have 3 cameras on this one, and then the flash. I'm seeing a sort of bluish kind of coral color. It looks pretty cool. Something new that we haven't really seen. Well, I kind of have seen coral, but this is a bit developed. The bezel, the sort of bezel-less thing is working really well. I think this is the best innovation we've seen in bezel-less kind of displays. The motorized stuff I'm not really a fan of because it's still in its beta testing kind of mode. It's not really ready for full use by people in the public yet, because really get some sand or grit or dirt in there and it's done. It just doesn't work anymore. So we need some mechanism that works much better. No mechanism is what works much better right now. Now, there seems to be a black color mode of this. Let's see what else I'm finding. Is that a silver or a purple? Not too sure. But yeah, we can see it's very bezel-less. This is the picture I've seen before. So the S10 and the S10 Lite have one hole punch, and the S10 Plus has the triple hole punch. Not too much new with this aside from the hole punch and stuff. The camera seems to be on a horizontal strip going across the back layer of the body. Now, I don't know if they're going to put this hole punch in the center or on the outside, kind of on the corners. I would like looking at the pictures. The center seems to be better because it just looks less kind of obvious. Now, obviously, just it's the thing that looks less prominent and obvious on the screen would be the way that people would want to go. Some people have said they prefer it in the middle. I don't know. I prefer to see both of them in front of me, and I'd be able to make a decision. But from these pictures that I'm seeing right now, the one with the camera in the middle seems to look much smaller because obviously these are all renders and stuff. But you know, we'll see what happens with that kind of in-display camera. Also, I'm wondering, are they gonna ever do this in-display fingerprint thing, where the fingerprint sensor is under the screen? I don't know. This doesn't even seem to have any fingerprint sensor. So either the fingerprint sensor is under the display, or we're being screwed over with no fingerprint sensor. I hope that the latter is not true, because, you know, I like fingerprint sensors. Now you see this render here, Samsung S10 has 4 vertical cameras and a flash. I don't think this is the S10, because they did release an A phone with 4 vertical cameras. This has the Touch ID at the back, like kind of we're used to seeing, and then you just lift your finger to the back and then hold it, and then the flash. This is not what I'm seeing with any of the other renders. All of the latest ones and what other YouTubers are showing on their channel seem to have the sort of no fingerprints. Actually, no, not true. I haven't seen any of the channels worth showing the back, actually. But no fingerprint sensor seems to be what the majority of this is showing. And then we move to this one with vertical cameras. I don't think it's going to have vertical cameras. I think those are older posts and kind of more outdated now, because of course the more and more stuff that they get, the more updated it becomes. Samsung S10 has critical features. What is that? Okay, it's a little dial on the top. I might link some of these pictures down below so you can go and take a look. Just search S10 on Google. You'll find a lot of them, so you can search it up while listening to this. Anyways, if you just go with me, yeah, there isn't that much more. There is a purple kind of color that we've seen last year, and then that bluish one. They both seem to be available, and a regular black. Don't think they're going to really add any new colors. If there was a gold, that would be really cool. But I don't think we're going to really have a gold S10. It would be cool, though. Anyways, let's move on to the next thing. So if we go back, it's more about bezel innovation, really, across all the devices. So by the end of 2019, I'm hoping to see something where, I don't know, maybe just with Oppo or something, one of these kind of niche companies, to see what the S10 have done, but with no hole punch. I don't know, something that actually works, not like these motorized stuff where it will break super easily. I want to see like just complete bezel-less display. I don't know if we're going to be able to have this sort of infinite bezel-less display by the end of 2019. Maybe moving into the end of 2020 or even later. I'm not too sure on that. But it would be really great to see a complete bezel-less phone or something like that by the end of the year. That would be something I'm probably most excited about, aside from the iPhone. It's just, something that really interests me, just seeing the innovation in smartphones and the bezel, because it's become such a hot topic over the last 3 years. It's just sort of, the smartphone race has just been pushing and pushing to remove notches and just have less bezel on their phone. That's literally what all the smartphone companies are just striving towards right now. It's just the bezel and the notch are just the most important things in their minds. So I do want to see what these companies come up with to solve the notch issue and, bezel. Going to be very interesting to see kind of the race that goes on. We've seen motorized slider things. Just seen like the motorized one from Oppo, the slider one from Oppo, which is kind of satisfying if you just look at it and see the sounds and all that, but it's just the function. Shit, I just keep shaking the table. Anyway, the function is still not really there because of the fact that if anything just comes near that area of the slider could get badly damaged and you can no longer use your front-facing camera. Being me, I take a ton of selfies. Let's take one right now. I do like my selfie of the day with the podcasting stuff, so if you're watching this podcast right now, I'll see it. That was my selfie of the day done. I have been taking a selfie of the day for the last, 6 months. I have been inconsistent on several of the days. I'm trying my best, maybe after like 5 years' time, hopefully, if all goes well, I'll make one of those montage videos just going through me over the last several years and how I've changed and, you're able to see some of the fashion, my face, the hairstyle, facial hair, glasses, whatever. Everything could have changed by the next 5 years because obviously at this age, Okay. Let's get back. Now, there's one thing. Heard about last year, discussed it on a podcast, I do believe, and some videos. I have no idea when I discussed it, but I can remember talking about it. And that is the foldable smartphone by Samsung. First off, once Samsung announced this foldable smartphone, Huawei went and patented their designs for smartphones. Apple have said something about 2020 foldable smartphones, so that is next year. We'll see what happens with Apple next year and foldable smartphones. Hopefully it's going to be something great. And maybe next year might be the year I buy a new phone. So if it comes out towards the end of next year, foldable smartphone be, pretty legit over the next couple of years. Now, of course, Samsung is the most upcoming kind of foldable smartphone. It's the one that's coming soonest, unless, some company just bang it out quicker. Anyways, the foldable smartphone is a very novel idea. It has its uses, it looks interesting, it's just something completely new. it is still in this sort of beta mode. Samsung have not really got everything sorted out. You've seen the fact that they kept everything dark, didn't show too much in their event about the foldable smartphone. They have seen a bit of glitches on it, but it sort of folds out like this and it can become like a mini iPad size, which is pretty useful for kind of exploring larger things on the phone, watching content. I would most definitely kind of flip it out and start watching my Netflix shows or whatever, YouTube, things like that, much better on a bigger display. You know, things that you want to see, you want to read, you use it like a Kindle, something like that. Always beneficial to have a bigger display, and then you just fold it right back up. I don't know, things about the thickness would probably be a problem from what I've seen so far, but we'll see what Samsung and Apple and all those companies decide to sort of bring in terms of the thickness of this phone. You obviously don't want it to be too thick and bulky because, you know, we're going down the route of getting thinner smartphones and kind of lighter. If it's something thick and bulky and heavy, really it's not going to be practical to carry around with you every day. So I want to see what they come up with on that. But this the foldable smartphone will definitely get a lot more coverage on the channel. If it comes out, I'll most definitely go to the store, get a few clips and content to show you guys, and just so you can experience what this smartphone sort of looks like in the flesh. Next up is the Mac Pro. Now, first off, I can give you a few rumors and stuff on the Mac Pro. I am not personally very hyped on the Mac Pro. I'm more hyped about any sort of rumored display and monitor that they might release with this Mac Pro, the trash can Mac. But if they do sort of upgrade it, I mean, it is still too expensive for me. Out of my budget and price range, it's like with several $1,000s to get a good one. So, if you've seen the rumors, you'll see that they have a trash can sort of style. Fuck that. A sort of, there's the trash can, there's the tower, and they have something in the middle. That seems pretty interesting, something I might buy into in like future time when I'm richer. But like, if I had the money, it would be probably something I would go with because, you know, I'm a Mac user and all that. But price is obviously something that's a problem. The fact is they have completely announced and assured us that it's going to be customizable and it's going to be a modular device that you can use and customize all the different components inside. That is something that people have been hating on Apple for God knows how long. So finally this one would have solved it. Of course, people are going to come back and say, oh, the price, you know, PC Master Race and all that kind of jazz. For a Mac user, having something customizable, it is something very interesting, something new, something we've wanted for a very, 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 very long time. So with that, it means we can change specs along the way. You don't really need to get a new device. You just change the sort of graphics card, get it improved. The RAM, you know, you find your device kind of slow, add another RAM stick, add some more storage, etc., etc. It's always upgradable and modular and customizable, which is what I like about that. Now, if you've seen Apple's previous Pro monitors that they've released, I think they look pretty trashy. I don't like the way they look really at all. I want to see something more modern, less bezel. Maybe if they release an ultra-wide, I would be really happy. Right now I use an LG ultra-wide 29-inch curved HD display. Sitting right in front of me, it looks pretty beautiful. If Apple released something similar, maybe less bezel, I don't think they're going to release an ultra-wide display because it's just not something to do. I don't even know if they're going to release a display. I just hope they do. There have been rumors on it. Now, if they do, if it really looks like the old display, then I most definitely am just going to hate on it. I do not like the old display that Apple have had. Not really one bit. I want something new and different and sort of unique. Now, I'm kind of out of breath. I don't know how someone else talked to you, so the podcast is kind of short at this episode. I did say an hour in the beginning, but an hour really on my own, it's kind of hard. Anyways, I'm going to see you on the next episode of this show. That should be tomorrow in terms of podcast, because I'm going to have a film podcast tomorrow. And of course, every single day on the smaller podcast. But you guys have been a great help. I'm so glad that you actually made it to this part of the podcast. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in on this episode. Hopefully next week or the week after we'll have Courage back on and he'll be doing the podcast. The podcast can be an hour long. We'll have more discussions and debates coming up soon. Make sure to subscribe to all my YouTube channel, AKAJK, the podcast, AKAJK Audio Show, all social media platforms at AKAJKYT. That's about it. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you in the next one. Because here at AKAJK, the grind is daily.